Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and fix this goddamn screen up right quick. Get the gang up in this thing. There we go. Welcome, man, to the first edition of the Washington Commanders / Trapper Dive post game with the Trapper Dive crew, man. I'm your host, Mual, AJ, Dre, everybody in here, man. The full gang is in here recapping the immediate recap of the Commanders in Washington. Commanders in Jacksonville game, man, that just took place in FedEx Field. Obviously, we know Washington took the dub 28-22. For me, surprising how it ended up turning out, kind of a high scoring second half, really. But ultimately, like I said, Washington gets the dub. AJ, Dre, before we get further into things, man, how are y'all doing today, man? First off, let's make sure AJ goes first. He's the most important person of this group here. But I know AJ definitely. We're gonna have some things to talk about for sure. He's right on some things, but we're gonna let him get the floor. How you feeling, AJ?
Yeah, man. I mean, overall Sunday has been good. Football's back. If I knew it wasn't going to rain, I would have attended the game. But at the end of the day, great for football to be back, and we can actually talk about games that matter, wins and losses wise. But definitely feel like, I don't know if y'all remember this singer and her popular song, but Vivian Green, she had a song back in the day called Emotional Roller Coaster. That's exactly what this game was.
Yes, absolutely was, bro. And for the longest too, man, I told because my group chat with the day ones, they be going crazy and shit, like, because there's so many different fans in there. But the Skins fans, like, they're so, like, the minute they see negativity or like a downhill of poor momentum going the opposite way, I was like, bruh, the fourth quarter just started. We got a long way to go. But goddamn, if that second quarter and that third quarter was so long, bruh, it really was. AJ, how you feel? AJ, Dre, how you feeling today?
As I told y'all in the group chat, man, like, this shit was an experience, man. Like, I mean, we watch football every year, we get into it, but I think especially week one, we forget how much of your emotions are fucking drained watching these games. I mean, and it's not even just being a Commanders fan. I mean, I had the Red Zone channel on all day, and games was like this all over the fucking league. I mean, it was probably only like 2 blowouts, but the rest of the games were just fucking emotional roller coasters, just like this Commanders game. I mean, that second and third quarter, it just looked like we were dead in the water. It was like, all right, man, we're not the same team that came out those first 2 drafts, but then they finished strong and they won the game. And that's all you can ask for in week one. You just survive and advance in week one, because week one, you don't know, especially in the situation with the Commanders facing the Jaguars. It's Doug Peterson, a new system with Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence second year. You don't know how much of a leap Trevor Lawrence is taking. And a lot of people actually had Jacksonville winning this game. I think most of it, if you watched any NFL show, that was making predictions, probably about 75% of those people were picking the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Washington Commanders. I mean, I know a lot of people might look at this game and they may say, hey, well, we just played the Jaguars, who had number 1 pick 2 years in a row. But hell, like I said, a lot of people thought we were going to lose this game. Even a lot of Commanders fans thought we were going to lose this game, but we won the game. It may not have been impressive, but it was a week 1 victory. You won the game, and it's much better to be sitting up here talking about a win than a loss, no matter how ugly it was.
Yeah, I agree. And let's go ahead and check in with the chat right quick. Mike, I see you, big dog. We got things. I appreciate you checking in. T, I see you, Tara, Alex, in this thing, man, on Twitch. I see you, big dog. Jay Tyler. He said, walk it to him, AJ. Hey, so Jay Tyler in this thing, man. John Bolden checking in. Armani, the good man Armani checking in as well. It said his prediction 30-24 Washington. He was off by 2 points. That is a fact. Mike also said, Winston Fuller got a lot of film to watch and need to get it together for everyone next game. Anthony Thomas as well checking in saying Kendall was getting cooked all day, if we're being honest. So fellas, I'm gonna get off with a couple of things. I asked Twitter. I'm gonna have to try to remind myself to do this every week. One sentence takeaway from today's game. I'll just read a couple. I'm not gonna read a lot because I didn't got like fucking 30 responses in 2 seconds. So I'll just read a couple from Dante Astrack. I got Dante, Dre, you know him better than I do, but he said they showed intensity and resilience. I've seen developing slowly the past 2 years. Zim mentioned this is going to be most Jekyll and Hyde team I can remember as a fan. Echo win. Caleb mentioned stressful. And everybody in the chat as well. Let's see, what's your one sentence takeaways from today's game? Let's go ahead and make sure we get y'all in the show as well. A couple Big Snack, 3 Ring Circus, Rees, De La Ghetto. My heart can't take 17 weeks of this. Got a couple more. Let's do my Commanders. Wentz gonna wince, but I like good wince. And then the next one, oh my goodness. Let's do it. All right, we have a whole bunch of winces. All right, so Rail World mentioned 2 words, buckle up. Let's go ahead and start with the big ticket item. I'll get through the stats right quick for him. Carson Wentz and obviously the team, but let's go through some of the numbers. Carson Wentz finished today 27-41, 313 yards, 4 tutties, 2 picks, 1 sack. Or 1 sack allowed, I guess, for Washington. Antonio Gibson had the 14 carries, 58 yards. Curtis Samuel, 4 carries, 17 yards. Carson Wentz, 6 carries, 12 yards. JD only carries, 8 yards. And then receiving leaders, Antonio Gibson was the rushing and receiving leader on the day. 7 receptions, 72 yards from Antonio Gibson. Then you have Terry McLaurin, 2 for 58. Curtis Samuel, 8 for 55. Logan Thomas, 3 for 45, and Jahan Dodson, 2 tutties in his rookie debut, 3 receptions, 40 yards. And then we have Armani and J.D. McKissick both with 23 yards and 20 yards respectively. Let's go ahead and talk about the boy Wentz. I think when it comes to the overall flow of the game, it's interesting to kind of see how things play out because when you see the first half, it really was something that you experienced. Like it wasn't no slowly developing storyline, right? You experienced Carson Wentz day 1, week 1 of the regular season, bro. And I think when you see how effective he was starting off the game to how he closed it off, or excuse me, the middle of it. It was like a sandwich, really. Like he started off really good, man, and in the middle of it, second and third quarter was so head scratching. Specifically, 2 plays in particular that ultimately put your team in jeopardy of losing. But then he comes back and closes it at the end. Obviously, for more context, I'll hand it to you all, whoever wants to take the floor first. Your thoughts on Wentz's game as a whole?
Yeah, man, I think he started off the game pretty hot. I will say that Scott Turner did a hell of a job, coming out the gate with the scripted plays to allow Wentz to, get some momentum and, get comfortable out there on the field. But, I mean, what we've seen today was Carson Wentz. Like I've been saying, we got to trust who he is. Like, he's going to be able to make some plays because he has the intangibles to do so. And the God-given talent. At the same token, you are going to have to accept the negatives with him as well. I feel like a couple of times you try to force the ball not downfield, but in between coverages or whatever. Even take the free play. It was a free play, but damn, my boy threw that shit between 3-4 defenders on the free play. Then that interception on the sideline to Tyson Campbell, he stared down that wide receiver the entire way. Like, these are professionals. Like, that's going to happen. Like, they're going to make a play on the ball if you're just going to stare down your target the whole time. But, overall, I feel like he still went out there, pushed the ball downfield to Terry late for that touchdown. And then another one to Jahan Dotson. I think I just would like to see Scott Turner probably dial that up a little bit more. And yeah, I would also like to see Scott Turner kind of not put the game in his hands so much. As I told you guys in the chat, like, yo, second half, Scott Turner's gonna have to start running the ball some more because he's literally putting the game in Winston's hands to lose. And what happened second half? He had 2 turnovers, and it was just like you just was forcing the pass way too much with him. And I don't think that's a good recipe for this team going forward.
I think. Well, actually, go ahead, Dre, and I'll circle back on some things. Go ahead.
Well, the first kind of comment on what AJ was saying, I mean, I think you know, as Scott Turner and Ron Rivera, I think you have to kind of put the game in Carson Wentz's hands. I don't think they brought Carson Wentz in here to kind of be a game manager, just to say, all right, we want to run the ball more, and you're going to just be a guy that's going to, you know, make, you know, the right plays here and there. Like, he's going to have to win these games, and that's the risk you're going to have to take with Carson Wentz. I mean, this is their guy. They, you know, they went out and traded big assets for this guy, and he's supposed to be the one that takes them to the next level. So I think they kind of have to rely on them. I do get what you're saying. They do have to, you know, present more of a running game, but I kind of like the game plan early on with, you know, as far as how Scott was calling the game. I thought it was an innovative running game. You didn't see like the traditional running game, like the back, the quarterback behind center and the back just taking handoffs. I mean, they were getting Curtis Samuel involved. I thought it was like a really creative game plan, especially without Brian Robinson out there. And even in how they use Antonio Gibson throughout the game. I mean, Antonio Gibson wasn't just used as a in between the tackles running back. He was taking routes. We saw a beautiful route early in the first quarter where Carson found them, and he had a couple of other catches in the game. So I overall, I like the game plan from Scott Turner, but I did see now. I can say, and I told you all this, I think we got the full Carson Wentz experience. It was the roller coaster. You know, we got the untimely turnovers. We got the huge passes from Carson Wentz. So we kind of saw all of it from Carson. But it was some things in the game that I want to see Carson clean up. And this is some of the things that's kind of been an issue with him throughout his career. But there was some high passes. He was missing high on some passes. I mean, these guys were wide open. I think he missed Jahan Dotson a couple of times, and Jahan was wide open.
Sideline.
Yeah,
remember that shit.
yes, and Dax Milne.
In clean pockets.
Oh, yeah, Dax Milne was one.
Yes, and these were clean pockets. Yeah, absolutely right, AJ.
Pockets.
Yes, you can't miss those throws. I mean, these are throws you cannot miss. I mean, like I said, Dax Milne, Jahan Dotson, he missed these guys wide open. I mean, they were just sitting there waiting for passes. So you hope that, I mean, even though this is a thing that's kind of, you know, troubled Carson Wentz with his inaccuracies, you just kind of hope as time goes by, he kind of cleans those up, and you have less of those than you have, you know, as much as they were today. But overall, like I said, I like the game plan. I thought Scott Turner had a good game plan. I just thought it was a lot of execution issues throughout the game. I mean, there was that one key drop that John Bates had on the third down. I thought John Bates should have came down with that. It was a hot pass coming from Carson, but it was right in John Bates' hands. You got to catch that. So I mean,
funny, you made a really good adjustment too.
Yes, and he just didn't catch the ball. But again, those were some of the issues you saw in the second and third quarter. But it was so promising and encouraging to see the team finish well in that fourth quarter. I mean, it could have easily died after Carson threw that last interception, and Jacksonville comes down to scores and takes the lead by 8 points. They were up 22-14, and for me, I was ready to kind of concede the game at that point. I was like, man, this looks like the Washington Commanders, same old Commanders. They're going to lose this game, a game they should have won early in the game. They didn't put this team away. They kept Jacksonville around, and now Jacksonville's going to win. And then they just had 2 great drives to finish off that game. So, I mean, like I said, you take this ugly win, but there was a lot to look at from this game and say we have to get better, and we can get better. I think they can get better. One of the things I do want to know, I know we're going to probably talk about this later, but I did want to just mention this now, is that I love Derek Forrest in this game. I thought he showed tremendous leaps and bounds in this game in his second year. And, you know, he was filling in for Cameron Curl, but I also think there was going to be a plan for Derek Forrest to be on the field before Cam Curl got hurt. He looks like he's going to probably be the Buffalo nickel this year, but he's going to be on the field, and he showed good promise today.
Yeah, that's where I was getting at, that Buffalo nickel role. So, like, when you see, now I think they ran it a few times today too, if I'm not mistaken. But when Derek Forrest is in the game, traditionally, like, he has that too high look with Bobby McCain and with Cam in the box, and the way they use him in coverage, and that pick was more so him making a play and getting under the football. But ultimately, like, he had a forced fumble earlier in the game. I think they had to call a stand, right? It was a forced fumble, I believe.
Yes, it was a stand. Yes.
Okay. All right. So he had a forced fumble in the game. Either way, big hit. He was right there, put the helmet on the ball, knocked the ball out. And obviously just around the football altogether in coverage and at, like, the back of the end zone, playing the red zone with Jacksonville in the red zone. I believe they actually dropped the touchdown a play prior, or maybe 2 plays prior, but not towards him. I think it was on the left side of the offense. I don't even know who was in coverage. I can't remember. But Derek Force playing the back of the end zone perfectly against Trevor Lawrence, helping defend and hold them to a field goal, which I think they ultimately missed on that drive. But what I was going to mention, fellas, when we were talking about putting the ball in Wentz's hands, I think the larger story, while I think that holds credence, I think the larger story is actually just having the offense, 2 things, having the offense stutter, in which it did, but also heading into the half is where the problem started. Washington, listen to this. It was 3 drives in particular that really hurt actually 4 drives to be specific. And after the fumble, or excuse me, right before the fumble, Jacksonville had an 8-play, 68-yard drive that took 4 minutes off the clock, heading into Washington's end zone. And I think they ended up, I think that was the ETN drop, on Washington's 3-yard line that ultimately gave the ball back to Washington. And then Curtis Samuel ultimately fumbles. But the drive right after that for Jacksonville, they marched down the field on 10 plays, 47 yards in a minute and 6 seconds. They missed the field goal. But then when they get the ball back in the second half, first drive, they go 6 plays, 80 yards and a touchdown. Next drive, 11 plays, 55 yards, 5 minutes and a field goal. The offense wasn't getting on the field as long. They didn't have many opportunities. And when they did have that one opportunity, when they were moving the ball effectively, we had a Curtis Samuel fumble, which ultimately led to two more turnovers for Washington. And I think that's kind of the missing piece to when we're talking about how this second quarter / third quarter happened and how they were able to stay so close. Missed opportunities on both sides, because we're talking about one side of the game here is Washington. Jacksonville missed a ton of opportunities, but when it specifically comes to Washington, they had a fumble on a very good drive that ultimately ended up at the time of the fumble to Jacksonville's 39-yard line, and Curtis Samuel fumbles that. So you're still driving. You have an opportunity to put at least 3 points on the scoreboard, and that goes to waste. But you're ultimately off the field for such a long time with such extended drives for Washington's defense. They can't get off the field. So it's just kind of hard because the pressure is currently and constantly being put on the offense to sustain something. And while they had 3 very good drives to start the game, look, it was never going to always be perfect. Like, you needed some help from your defense, and these guys folded throughout the middle parts of the game.
I mean, yeah, you need help from your defense, but you also need help from your coordinator as well, running the ball. When you throw the ball and it's incomplete, you stop the clock. So that's why Jacksonville was able to eat up the clock and running. That was just my main thing, with Scott Turner in this particular game. It was just like, hey, man, especially once they started catching on to your scheme, because if you really think about it, we haven't seen none of that on film. So Jacksonville couldn't even prepare necessarily for that. Like, what certain guys can do in their capabilities, like a Curtis Samuel, but you haven't actually seen Washington display Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson in the backfield together, or flanking out, J.D. McKissick, and then also flanking out Antonio Gibson. Like, you have not seen any of those things. So once they did adjust, later on in the game, and especially in the second half, you didn't really see Scott Turner try to mix in the run more, whether it be with carries to McKissick, Williams, or Gibson. I think it's pretty interesting that they ran Curtis Samuel in between the tackles, probably more than even Antonio Gibson. Off the top of my head, I don't really think Gibson had that many in between the tackle runs, but yeah, I mean, that's my main thing, and I think Dre touched on those high misses with Carson Wentz as well.
Yeah, it's mixy, man. Offensively, obviously, we know Carson Wentz is going to be the biggest draw. But as we transition to like some of the other areas of the game, I think offensively in particular, seeing how the weapons did perform in the game against Jacksonville. Granted, like, we kind of knew how this defense was. Like it was young, but it still had talent up front, and it actually showed itself a few times. Sam Cosmi, he got baptized today against Trayvon Walker in a sense of understanding like what that athleticism does for Trayvon Walker. But ultimately, like Wentz had faced several pressures throughout the game. It wasn't constant, but there was like a string in which he had like 3 or 4 consecutive knockdowns or hits on him. But that offensive line needed some help. But when it comes to the weapons all together, you kind of saw, at least in the first game, when we talk about how Scott Turner, Dre, started this game off, like that opening script was amazing. But ultimately, like, you see how Antonio Gibson can work if you use him as an offensive weapon. Terry McLaurin got a little iffy because he only had 2 targets, I believe, if not 3, I think in particular. And the last one came at the end of the game where he beats his guy for 49 yards. A guy that was in bail coverage had no eye on Terry McLaurin at all. And then you see Curtis Samuel all together. Same thing with Antonio Gibson being an offensive weapon for these guys. What do you think about the way they utilize all of the pieces, including Jahan Dotson, who I barely touched on just now?
Well, see, and this is what I love about this offense. I mean, we've been talking about this all offseason about the guys that Carson Wentz is surrounded, with. Now, maybe the last 2 years when you had Carson Wentz with the 2020 Eagles and Carson Wentz with the 2021 Colts, they lose this type of game. And when they lose this type of game, you're looking at Carson Wentz. You're saying, well, Carson Wentz is not who we all thought he is, and Carson Wentz is this, that, and the third. But then now you have Terry McLaurin, you have a healthy Curtis Samuel, you have Jahan Dotson, who's been lauded since the offseason. Then these guys don't have to put up laudy numbers or big numbers throughout the game, but they're dangerous and they're threats anytime you're on offense. And you've seen that with Terry McLaurin. As you mentioned, Jamal, Terry had 2 to 3 targets in this game, but that one touchdown, he beats a guy badly on a play. Carson finds him, he hits him. Jahan Dotson's first game ever as a rookie, he has 2 touchdowns in this game, and one is the game-winning touchdown. So, regardless of whether these guys are going to put up, big-time numbers throughout the season, they're going to be threats in any game they play in. And you love to see that you're not out of a game because Carson Wentz throws in a really bad interception. Now, granted, I do think the defense got let off the hook a couple of times in this game with Jacksonville. I thought Jacksonville dropped some passes. I mean, Trevor Lawrence may have missed a couple of targets a couple of times. So the defense got a little lucky a couple of times and was able to stay in the game and not let this game get out of hand. But again, if, with this offense and with these weapons that you have, you're never really out of a game, as you've seen with Washington today. As I said, I thought we were out of the game when we were down 22-14. And in the next 2 drives, you get 2 big touchdowns to 2 of your big playmakers in Terry and Jahan. So I love that, these guys are able to be threats at any point in the game. Even when Carson has his bad moments throughout the game, you're still going to have those threats. And that's going to be something to watch all season long with Jahan, Terry, and Curtis.
One quick second before you go, AJ. Everybody, the link is in the chat if you want to join. We'll take a couple callers. Make sure we get our quick points off, and then if anybody wants to join the stream and get their thoughts off on the team, you are definitely able to do so. Fellas, back to you all. AJ, what do you think about how they were able to utilize the weapons that they have on this offense? Like, I was actually not gonna lie to you, I'm in a space where I knew that there was people running wide open that Carson Wentz either was overthrowing or just not even seeing. And I'm not saying it was a huge detriment to him, but I think that for what this offense wants to get done, it's a very good stepping stool into the rest of the season. And I can't wait personally. You all know me. I can't wait to get back and look at the film and see what really happened. But what do you think about the weapons and how they were able to maximize what they do have on offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we all have been stating, the initial scripts or drives at the beginning of the game were great. I just feel as though still the issue that I had coming into the season was how was Scott Turner and how would he utilize Terry McLaurin more? I don't feel like he was really a part of the game plan as much today. Like he made some plays down. He made that play downfield, but before that play, I want to say going into the fourth quarter, he only had one catch, and that's your guy that you're saying is your number one wide receiver, and you're paying $24 million to. You have to get him more involved, especially if you got other guys like. You would have thought that Curtis Samuel was the number one wide receiver, the way he was getting utilized in the game plan. Like, he was everywhere. But at some point, you also got to put the ball in your playmaker's hands to give him an opportunity. And as you've seen, when they threw that ball deep to Terry, he scored a touchdown. So that's like, I feel like, you have a lot of moving pieces, but Scott has to get more creative, especially with you could hear me?
Yeah, now for a second you had lagged and froze, but you're back now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I just feel like he needs to get Terry more involved. But I mean, I definitely like the innovation today for the most part with how a lot of guys were utilized. I feel like Antonio Gibson, should be involved in the passing game much more. He's very familiar with playing wide receiver. Most times when he ends up flanking out wide, he's going to be covered by a linebacker. So why not take advantage of that mismatch? We've seen Jacksonville do that on the opposing side where they had Jamin Davis covering Christian Kirk, and they took advantage of that and almost scored a touchdown. So I would like to see them do more of those things. And like I said, man, just create somewhat of a more balanced play call too. I want to see some more running incorporated because you want to be able to play off of the play action and not have to put Carson Wentz out there to throw 42 times in a game that was that close.
Let's go ahead and catch up on some of the questions that we have and then transition to the defense. I did see a couple of them, so let me scroll through right quick. I did see some comments on the defense. We'll talk about them as we get there. Yes, Mike. Make sure if y'all in here, make sure if you are new to the Chopper Dive channel, let Mual tell it, Twitch channel /Chopper Dive, whatever. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, all that good stuff. It is appreciated. Here's one question by Wonder Bread. Appreciate you checking in. How much of Terry's holdout do you think played a part in his targets? And the reason, I think I understand what you're asking. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's not, because the way he asked it is one way, but I think he's actually asking more about the chemistry part in Carson Wentz, not necessarily the actual, so being like a punishment type of thing. But what do you all think about Terry's holdout being an impact in his ability to connect with Carson?
Honestly, I don't think it had much of a play at all with his targets. I mean, because when you look at it, Jahan Dotson didn't have a lot of targets in this game, but Jahan has been there and he's been getting lauded since OTAs. And I honestly think when you watch this game, you look at the game plan. I have to go back and watch the game again. I always do, so I will go back and watch the game. But I do think that there was just the emphasis on Carson taking what he was seeing and what was given to him versus, we're going to make this person a focal point, or we're going to, because you don't really have to do that in this offense. And that's one of the things I'm kind of noticing is that you don't really have to say we have to get Terry the ball most of the plays in this game because you have multiple playmakers. I even said this before the season. I said I expect to see a lot of the short passing game utilized because you have guys like Curtis Samuel, J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, Jahan Dotson. All of these guys are playmakers. You can get the ball in their hands. Carson doesn't really have to wait too long to throw the ball downfield. You just get the ball in these guys' hands and they're going to make plays. But as I was seeing in this game, Carson a lot of the times was trying to take what he was given to him, what was in his face versus we're going to make a certain guy a focal point. And they did that with Curtis early in the game. They were making Curtis a focal point. And I think that was to kind of make the defense honest. Like, let's bring these guys up a little bit, focus on the short passing game so we can, take our deep shots when we can. But as far as Terry goes, I don't think the holdout had an impact on his targets. I do think you'll see Terry make more of an impact as the season goes on. Like I said, you've seen it as this game went on. Like, for the most part, Terry, I think he may have had like a pass early in the game where he got a first down, but you didn't really hear his name called. But then Terry comes up, to make the big play when it matters. And I think that's going to be a theme throughout this season, not just with Terry, but I think that's going to be a theme with like Jahan Dotson, Logan Thomas. I think these guys are going to make plays when their numbers are called, and it doesn't necessarily have to be called all game. But that's why you have these guys. The targets are there, the weapons are there, and they're going to make their presence known when their number is called. Their number doesn't have to be called often because you have so many guys' numbers that has to be called. But I don't think the holdout was the reason we saw a lack of Terry targets today.
All right, let's go ahead and get the good man Armani in here. He wanted to join and see what he has to say about these boys in Washington. Armani,
my boy, what's good, Armani?
What's up, Dre? I never met Dre yet before, so I gotta say, what's up? Good to see you. What's up, AJ?
Man. That's my man.
Nice to meet you.
What's up, man? Nice to meet you as well.
My question is, did you all notice number 52, Davis getting lost a lot on the field, trailing up these receivers and running backs? That was one question. And then also, like, I think we have to outscore teams this year. We're not going to be winning games like 17-14.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll start it off. Or AJ, you go ahead and start off. You good? But Armani, don't escape your questions. I want to hear your take too. So
Okay.
AJ, you got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, Jamin Davis, I don't even want to single him out. I feel like at the end of the day, he was put in a position that he was going to lose against, guys like Christian Kirk. Can't really speak on Travis Etienne too much, but he's a playmaker. He's a dynamic running back that can also, play in the passing game pretty damn well. That's why he was, such a highly touted prospect coming out of Clemson. But I mean, as a whole, the linebacker position is shit. Like, straight up, it's just shit. Like, Cole Holcomb made no impact on this game at all in the run game.
Bro, that touchdown run.
Yeah. So it's just like, at the end of the day, your linebacking position is screwed up. Right now, you don't really have any solution to fix that. We didn't even touch on, Fedarian Mathis going down. So now you've lost depth at your D tackle. The guy you brought in to help play the run. I don't know the injury report on Jonathan Allen. I don't even know if did he finish up the game?
Nah, it was. I think Obata was in for him. Obata and I was in.
And that hurts, but Fedarian Mathis hurt too.
Yeah, so you gotta hope that Allen can be okay, but Fedarian Mathis more than likely when they bring out that cart, it's murder she wrote pretty much on that. So now you have to go and look for depth at D tackle position. And last year you had Settle, you had Ioannidis. Maybe you could circle back and get Ioannidis from Carolina with a late draft pick or something. But you have to fix that position. But overall, man, Amani, just to answer that question, the linebacker position as a whole is screwed up. And then what was the second part again?
About us, like, we're gonna have to outscore teams. We're not gonna be winning a lot of low-scoring games. We're just gonna have to put up the offense and hope that we can make a stop or two.
I think you saw that today.
I feel like you're gonna need this defense to stop somebody though if you're gonna be competitive. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm cool with Carson Wentz, pushing the ball downfield and getting opportunities. But at the end of the day, I don't want to go into like weeks saying that this game is in Carson Wentz's hands. You get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm cool with him being able to, take what he sees on the field and, the scripted plays. But I don't want Carson Wentz out there throwing the ball 45, 50 times in a game. Like, that's just not something that I want to see because, as Dre has touched on, we got the Carson Wentz experience today. You got the highs and the lows. And those lows come at very crucial times of games. And this really could have been flipped the other way, and we could be sitting here talking about a loss.
Yeah, I agree. So, Mual, you want my thoughts? Like, I think they start off well, but I think that Scott Turner, he kind of let up a little bit, kind of once we have the 14-3 lead. And so I think he's got to continue to be aggressive. Obviously, the defense, we got issues because they didn't really even try to run the ball, and they were running for 5-6 yards a clip. And so that's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. But we do have offense. And a lot of times, I think if you remember Kansas City, their offense came along much quicker than their defense over the years. So we could be like in a similar spot. But then, what was I gonna say? I just think that when they went to the hurry up offense in like the late third or fourth quarter, I thought that was very wise, and that helped kind of stabilize things. So those are kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I'll answer the second one first. I actually said it pre-game too. My thing with this defense is I'm not even going to ask you all to be or trust you all to be a top 10 defense or just a consistently good defense. Like, I'm not here for that anymore. I'm here for takeaways. Like, just look, take advantage of some opportunities that's provided to you. They had a couple like the pressure I think was very good throughout the most part of the game. You sacked Trevor Lawrence twice, but you hit him about damn near 10, 11 times. So you were affecting them to some degree. I feel like you could have got home a little bit more. Obviously, you'll know more as time goes along. You're able to watch the game again. But at the end of the day, if you aren't creating turnovers or getting off the field on third down, those are the opportunities that's important. If you're going to give up yards, okay, cool. But get off the field on third down. And then also force some turnovers. And this is going to be a team where you're probably going to have to outscore individuals, meaning like 26, 27 points to win a game. And like if you're looking like this against the Jaguars, like my thing is, and Dre disagreed with me. I don't know what he did, but I said that Trevor Lawrence low-key was cooking all game. And this was prior to Washington taking the lead after being going down 22-14 is when I said that. So he was probably, I remember it distinctly, he was 31 or 18 of 31, and he probably had at that point 5 or 6 drops. So at that point, when you're 18-31 with 5 or 6 drops, add those stats in there, and you probably have two or three touchdowns as well. But ultimately, like I said, Trevor Lawrence was able to have an efficient game for the most part. And obviously for 18 for 23 on the ground, James Robinson broke off a couple big runs. Travis Etienne did the same thing, 4 carries, 47 yards. He broke off 2 big runs, and I think he broke off a third. That third one was called back. So you're having all these opportunities from a ground game standpoint and a pass game standpoint where you're really struggling to get off the field or maybe getting gashed in a sense. So you're in for a long long year if you're not able to really get off the field or create opportunities such as they did today to an extent. The first question, I actually forgot it. But that last one, it really does come down to the defense. These guys, it's going to be an issue all season long, unfortunately, in terms of being able to really compete on a consistent basis. But if you can get off the field, create opportunities, I think it's manageable. I think it's manageable, fellas.
And yeah, I guess I'll get my last little touches on the defense. It's to Jamal's point about me disagreeing with his Trevor Lawrence assessment. Now, I did think Trevor Lawrence had he was playing pretty decent, but I thought earlier he let us off the hook a couple of times. I know he had a couple of drops, but there was a couple of missed passes. I can't remember who he missed that pass to early in the first quarter, but it was a wide open. It would have been a touchdown, but he overthrew the guy. And I think he had a couple of those kind of misses early on.
I think it was Kirk. I remember that one.
Yeah, it may have been Kirk. And then one thing I noticed with Trevor, and one thing I was hoping the defense would kind of do more of, was just keep putting pressure on him. I noticed every time we kind of brought pressure to Trevor Lawrence, he was uncomfortable. He was not comfortable with pressure. And as you see, that's how we kind of ended the game. When Defoe got his pick, I mean, there was pressure right in his face. So that was one of the things. And that's one of the adjustments you kind of want to see Jack Del Rio bring. The defense still to my liking. They're not getting enough pressure when they just rush the line by itself. When they bring exotic blitzes, that's when you're seeing the pressure. I mean, it's not ideal, but still, I want to see Jack kind of dial up more of that, especially for quarterbacks who aren't comfortable with that. Now, next week, I mean, we'll talk about this more as the week goes on. We have a couple of shows this week coming up, but that's one of the things you want to see with Jared Goff. You don't want to let Jared Goff get comfortable. He's not that type of quarterback. You want to see Jack Del Rio adjust and just bring that pressure. But overall, as far as the defense is concerned, I know Amani brought up Jamin Davis and being lost. I have to kind of go back and watch that again to pay more attention to Jamin Davis to see, how many of these possessions he was lost on. I do know that he had a sack that was called back. Kendall Fuller had an awful drive in that first half. Kendall Fuller, yes. I mean, he fucked up a whole drive by itself. I mean, and luckily they didn't walk away with points there, but that was one of the things. And Jamin Davis, we may be talking about a different Jamin Davis if that sack goes down without, that penalty on Kendall Fuller going down. So, but again, I have to watch the game back again, but it was still some things that weren't encouraging watching this defense. I mean, I feel like against a better opponent, you probably are talking about a different result here. But again, it wasn't, and you got a W, and hopefully you can adjust. But I mean, they're not inspiring much confidence that they will adjust. But the good thing is the offense showed that they could win a game when they have to score points to win the game. And they scored 28 points today to win the game, and that was a good thing.
Whoa. Let's slow down though. This was the Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
The defense that was supposed to be
I was just about to say, let's have a conversation. We were talking about how close this game was supposed to be, but also how AJ said that these guys were going to put up. No, you didn't say they were going to put up 30. Tony thought he was going to put up 30, but this was a team that you had them losing to. So they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean they won, but what I'm saying is let's not act like we seen like a top tier offense.
I get it.
Defense. That's what I'm saying. Washington really won't face. I mean, maybe Philadelphia's defense should be good. I mean,
they gave it 35
today. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like I don't really know on their schedule when they're going to play a top tier defense to really critique this as being an elite offense. I feel like they did a good job in comparison to what we're accustomed to when we have to watch Dre's son Taylor Heineke last year and things of that nature.
Man. He called him your son. Oh no.
AJ won't let me live that down. He gonna.
Hey man, I'll tell you what. Dre was Father of the Year last year. He was Richard Williams out here for Taylor Heineke.
Hey, I was saying, give him a chance, man. Give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Hey, no, I don't think you're wrong, but I it's not even a but. I don't think you're wrong at all about the conversation when it comes in relation to Jacksonville. I just think the important part of it is when we talk about this from a macro perspective is that they did handle business. Like we knew all together it wasn't going to be an easy game. I thought that they were going to take this comfortably into the fourth quarter. Clearly my first instinct was right. It was going to be a back and forth game, but ultimately we all expected Jacksonville to give their best punch week one. And Washington technically really let them hang in there as long as possible. And Jacksonville took advantage of that to an extent. But yeah, I just think that this was one of those weeks where in week one, you're facing a younger team with a better coach, a team that's not going to quit. Washington for one moment defensively looked like they did. And that's kind of the scariest part. When you saw that touchdown given up by Cole Holcomb on the drive after that second interception, you're like, all right, well, this looked like a floodgate type of situation. Sure, it was just one play, but at the end of the day, you give up a touchdown and you look like that. It's like you're the leader of the defense from a perspective standpoint, like from a visualization standpoint. A middle linebacker is the leader of the defense, and that man, we saw it, like giving up a touchdown, one of the easier touchdowns that you could give up as a defense. So I just think that they fought well, but defensively, we got some bigger questions that looms on our side as well. Okay. All right. So Amani, man, I appreciate you joining. Do you have anything else with this team? If you had one sentence to give these guys, I know I kind of put you on the spot. Is there anything that you have riding after watching this game?
My sentence would be don't let the wind fool you.
Okay. Don't let the wind. Hey, don't let the wind fool you. That's a good one.
Don't let the wind fool you.
The wind. But we could change winds too. But I say WIN, the wind.
Interchangeable. All right.
Well, keep up the great work, y'all. I'm out.
I heard
appreciate it.
I was just messing around.
Appreciate you, Amani. Hey, now if y'all aren't following Amani on Twitch, make sure y'all do that, man. Yeah, there's good content over there.
Well, look, I mean,
professional DJ.
I'm about to say I don't know what else we're getting into, but one thing I do know is the Giants looking like shit right now. I mean, I think we expected that, but yeah, Tennessee they up 10-0 and just got a sack fumble on Daniel Jones, so they about to score again.
God bless. Okay, so let's go Holcomb titty bumping out there. I gotta put that on this. I don't care. I gotta show that one. That was fucking hilarious. All right, let's get out of here with a couple things. MVPs and LVPs. We'll circle back on Tuesday to finish up everything else. But who's the MVP and LVP of this game? I'll start in my MVP. To be honest with you, was Antonio Gibson. He was now in theory Carson Wentz would have been my guy, but in terms of resiliency and fighting back and keeping his guys in the game. Side note, I loved how he came back to the huddle after he threw that second interception. That was the same drive that he came back and threw that Terry bomb for a touchdown and got him right back in it after those two mistakes that he had. But Antonio Gibson, I like how he competed all game. I like how Scott Turner utilized them, and it looked like Antonio Gibson was ready for the moment. He came through in every single situation that they put him in. So MVP, Antonio Gibson. LVP, least valuable player. I'm going to have to go. I may have to look at the tape for this one, but it was either between the interior offensive line or goddamn Kendall Fuller or Cole Holcomb. And because Kendall Fuller looked bad but didn't give up a touchdown, I'm going to just say Cole Holcomb. I did not appreciate that the one that I keep talking about. I did not appreciate his effort. I understand that missed tackles happen, but there's moments in which your competitive toughness should be on display. And for you to come back on the field after in a red zone situation where your team needed you, that one moment was too glaring for me. So I'm just going to say the LVP for me was Cole Holcomb.
Yeah, man. I think I didn't really get to touch on it earlier, but man, Friday, once I found out that I think it was Friday. When did we find out about Curl not playing?
Probably Friday.
Okay, yeah. So Friday, man, when I found out that Curl wasn't playing, I hit up Defo, as we call him, to tell him to take advantage of the opportunity of being able to start. Being able to start and making the best of it. And boy, did he take advantage of that this afternoon. He was able to step in there. You kind of didn't even think it. Damn, are we missing Curl? Honestly, in my opinion. I don't think anybody was out there wondering like, damn, Cam Curl would make a hell of a difference if we had him on the field right now. He played physical. I think the team needs more of that from the defense. They need guys coming and laying that wood and making a presence on that field so that players can feel threatened when they're catching in between in between the line of scrimmage or even on the sideline, things of that nature. And then he had the game-sealing interception. So for me, I think he's one of the MVPs. And surprisingly, man, I think I'll go ahead and probably give Curtis Samuel MVP as well. And that's probably tied in with Scott Turner. I feel like Scott really showed us, the rapport that he has with Curtis Samuel, getting him involved. Curtis, having a lot of backlash from a lot of the fans, including me as well. As far as not being able to produce last year and even this offseason, really not understanding what the hell was going on with the so-called plan that they had in place. But he took advantage of opportunities to be impactful in this game. He did everything. He lined up at running back. He lined up at the slot. He lined up outside. He scored a touchdown. He made some crucial catches. I think we should take heed to that. And realize, if he can stay healthy, that Scott definitely has a plan to get him involved in this offense and be able to, utilize his skill set. And then I guess what you call the least favorable player for the game, I would say Cole Holcomb. Hands down, no impact on the game whatsoever. Made some very poor reads. I want to say on the toss play. I remember on the toss play that they had, I don't remember what down and what quarter, but there was a toss play where he absolutely was not involved in the play at all. He was going the whole other direction, and the ball was tossed to the left-hand side. It's just not a middle linebacker. He's thinking too much. I could tell that he's thinking a lot on the field. Like you can see that he's trying to process a lot of information and not being able to play fast. And I guess I thought that Jacksonville would take more advantage of that in mismatches with Ingram. That didn't really happen. But at the end of the day, I don't know how Washington addresses that linebacker position going forward, but Cole Holcomb did not look good today.
Yeah. For me, my MVP, I'm gonna go with Jahan Dotson because I mean the two plays he made were big plays. They were huge plays. They were the difference makers, especially the last play. The last play, I mean, he got open. It was a great thing for Carson to see him. I mean, I would have picked Carson to win MVP. The only reason I didn't pick Carson and win MVP because I thought he made two plays that he just shouldn't have made. And those plays could have cost us the game. But I love his resilience. I love that he came back and he led to two drives that were touchdown drives, and one of those was the game-winning drives. But I'm going to give it to Jahan just because, like I said, two big catches in this game for two big touchdowns, and that was ultimately the difference maker in this game. That was his rookie game, debut game, and I think going forward you may see a lot more of Jahan Dotson because now he's pretty much put the world on notice. He's put everyone on notice. Hey, I can play at this level, and Carson knows that now. Carson, so I would expect more of Jahan Dotson going forward. He's my MVP of the day. On the defensive side of the football, I'm going with the LVP, and that for me just has to be Kendall Fuller. I just suspect Kendall Fuller to be a lot better. I think he's a smart player. I don't think he's a bad player, but he just has too many bad plays. And today he just had, a couple of bad plays that just were inexcusable. I mean, the penalties, you couldn't blame the refs. I mean, this was just Kendall Fuller just making bad plays, and that's unnecessary plays. And it wasn't just the penalties. It was just a couple of other times he just wasn't in position to make a play and his guy gets a catch. So, I mean, and this was crucial. I mean, luckily on the drive where he had the penalties, they didn't score, but that could have been just a complete different game against a different opponent. So Kendall Fuller, he gets my LVP. And I just wanted to, kind of touch on Derek Forrest again. I mean, mentioning AJ, AJ said that, he didn't think Cam Curl was missed. But again, when Cam Curl comes back, I don't think you're going to see Derek Forrest off the field. I think you're going to see a lot of him. In today's game, I saw a lot of Percy Butler on the field. I didn't see him make a lot of plays on the field, but he was on the field. And maybe because you didn't hear his name, he wasn't doing a bad job. I mean, again, I have to go back and watch to, pay a little bit closer attention to see what exactly he did. But from what I understand, when he was in the game, he didn't really make any mistakes. But in his role, you're going to see Derek Forrest a lot this year. Or you may see Cam Curl moved up to that Buffalo nickel and let Derek Forrest play the role that Cam Curl is supposed to play, which is that strong safety, box safety, whatever. So we're going to see a lot of Derek Forrest this year, and I'm actually looking forward to his development. I actually called him out early in the game, before the game. I said it was 3 second-year stars I wanted to see on defense perform or make an impact in today's game. I named him, Ben St. Juice, and I named Jamie Davis. Those are 3 second-year stars on the defense, and I wanted to see them make an impact. And Derek Forrest was the guy who shined the brightest of those 3 today, and I look forward to seeing a lot more of him.
Let's go ahead and catch up with the comments and get up out of here. Mike is upset at us, and I'm going to get to Mike in a second. Let's go to the MVPs and LVPs. We have Style is hilarious, right? I wish I seen the comment. He said this dude is worse than AJ. I don't know who the hell you talking about. Anyway, Mike said we were back with the Eagles MVP. Jay Tyler said the MVP is walking to him. Wonder Bread, a very good call out. Deron Payne did have a good game. So shout out to him, Deron Payne. Jay Tyler said that Holcomb was his LVP in a sense. Mike said Gibby and Wentz, give them both game balls. And then we have Winston Gibson from Armani, his MVPs. And then we have Curl and Forrest at the same time, I believe so. I think we all believe so. And then we have Sam Cosme MVP before Wentz. That's actually it's interesting. But Mike said, how can we all forget William Jackson shut his side down? I'll be careful saying that because I did see some catches on his side. We got to look at the eye in the sky first. But if you are right, let's give him his credit right now, or at least give you credit for saying that he is your MVP. Wonder Bread, LVP, Peterson for chasing points early. Kenneth checked in. What's going on? Kenneth said that Wentz scares him sometimes because those turnovers happen. Like from a fan perspective, you don't know where the ball is going next. That is a fact. We have discussed that, and that shit was incredible. Great win. Washington needs to lean on the run game more. Something that AJ said as well. So AJ definitely agrees, but you didn't understand why we were so pass happy. His MVP, Kenneth said, was Wentz as well. Okay. So here we go, fellas. Hey, 1-0. Go ahead. You got it. Yep.
I just want to chime in and just to be fair, on the opposite side of the ball for Jacksonville, man, Trayvon Walker played his ass off, dog. Like, you could tell that he's going to be a leader on that team and be making impactful plays. Like, he played the run game well. He definitely was pass rushing out there. He also made that interception and had a sack. I think I've seen he's the first rookie to ever do that in his debut since J.J. Watt. But he played a hell of a game.
That's a fact. And several players on Jacksonville side we didn't get to. I'll just give some names. We ain't got to go in detail. But Devin Lloyd, 11 tackles. Olakunle, I don't even know what his last name, but very good interior defensive lineman from Jacksonville. He stood out 10 tackles as well. Obviously, Christian Kirk, 6 for 117. Zay Jones, 6 for 65. We talked about the running backs, 18 for 123 altogether. James, 11 for 66. So that's a fact. AJ, good call out on the Rook. Fellas, like I said, 1-0 is in the books, man. Y'all go ahead and enjoy y'all Sunday. We'll be back Tuesday afternoon for the Aftermath show, just cleaning up on Washington, Jacksonville, everything that we left out, coaches speak and things like that. And I'll be back Monday morning for the Commanders morning show, the Morning Trappers, as Hawk would like to say. So, fellas, y'all enjoy y'all Sunday. AJ, Dre, and everybody in the chat, appreciate y'all watching. Appreciate y'all for sticking through, man. Enjoy y'all Sunday, man. Enjoy the games. And then we out of here. Y'all be safe. Peace.